Okay, so to understand the anatomy and characteristics of leaves, we're going to move through several different attributes. We're going to start off with the leaf anatomy. So here I just ripped off a twig of a shrub nearby. And I'm going to cut, just for ease of view, I'm going to cut the tip of it, but know that the rest of it was still there. So I cut the tip of that twig off. And you can see that there's multiple leaves on here, right? Now, what's important is that if you look from this angle, you see the shoot coming out. That's coming out from the axillary bud. So you can see right inside the axil, the armpit of the leaf, and the stem is the axillary bud. That is what determines if it's a leaf or a leaflet, which we'll talk about later with compound leaves. Put that one off so you can see a little better. Now, we're going to ignore that because that's a shoot from a different twig. So I'm going to cut that off so it doesn't distract us here. I'm going to rip this leaf off so we can see it better. Now, so here's the stem. Here's the axillary bud that tells us we're dealing with the leaf. The little stem-like structure extending to the actual blade of the leaf is what's called the petiole. So the petiole is the stem-like thing that attaches the leaf blade. This green part here is the leaf blade, also called the lamina. So blade plus petiole equals leaf. Now the outside of the leaf, we have the margin, so that's the edge of the leaf. We have the apex at the tip and the base at the bottom where the petiole sometimes attaches, at the back of the leaf. Now, down the middle, depending on which leaf type we have a midrib, which is basically the largest vein. So that's going to be the one that's taking the vascular tissues from the stem through the petiole, and the main one that carries it throughout the leaf. It'll separate out. You can kind of see them here. Let's see if I can get it to focus. You can see the little sideways veins there, kind of all over. I flip it over, you might see it better. Little veins moving out to the side. Those are secondary veins or minor veins. And they can branch several times. Now, what's important is if you look at the leaf, right, if I hold it like this, if I bend it, it's not breaking. And that's because rather than having woody structures like sclerenchyma and stuff in there, it has collenchyma, so flexible support, right? So that's most of the anatomy of the leaf there. And we're going to start to go into other leaf modifications here. So we're going to first start talking about compound versus simple leaf. First, this is just a simple leaf. A simple leaf meaning there's stereotypical leaf. One individual leaf, just like this, right? That's a simple leaf. We're going to start off with palmate leaf. So here is a little lupin leaf. See if we can get that focused. The little stem I'm holding is the petiole, so I broke that off the actual plant. I only grabbed the little leaf because I didn't want to hurt these little ones. And if you notice, the petiole attaches in what looks like the center, see if I can get it focused, what looks like the center of a lot of little leaves. This is actually one leaf. The petiole plus all these little leaf-like things is a single leaf. These individual leaf-like things are called leaflets. This is a compound leaf. A single leaf made up of multiple leaf-like things called leaflets. And if you notice, they all start at the terminus there of the petiole. And they branch out in like a palm pattern, right? Which is why we call it palmate. So this is a palmately compound leaf. Lupin, you can also think of something like cannabis, right? Cannabis is probably the most well-known compound leaf. But we also have pinnate compound. Nope, that one. So here's a rhodium plant or filiary. I'm going to rip off a leaf, right? And if you notice, see if we can get that focused. Here's the petiole, and rather than it branching off in a palmate pattern like the lupin did, you have two leaflets coming off the sides and kind of moving up, and a leaflet at the tip. Now remember, leaves don't occur at the tips of stems, but this is occurring at the tip of a leaf. So rather than occurring palmate, they all occur coming off of the central stem there, or central petiole structure, but in here it's called a rachis. So that's the rachis now, the center of the leaf, basically the midrib of the simple leaf, and they branch off sideways. So palmately compound, they all branch from the center. Pinnately compound, they're branching off from the center midrib, which we now call a rachis. And these are individual leaflets. But we also can have bipinnate, So here is a sensitive plant, Mimosa pudica. And let me see if I can get it focused. This plant's a little bit hard to see. Let's see if I can, oh, here's a good one. So here, the leaves are closed, the leaflets are closed up right now. If I turn them sideways, you can kind of see there's a ton of little leaflets in each one of these. But here's the petiole, right? And it branches off sideways and sideways again. So we know it's pinnately compound, but each leaflet is composed of multiple other little leaflets. Is there one here? This is, it's called sensitive plant because it closes up, but you can see here, each one's composed of little leaflets. So it's pinnately compound twice. It's pinnately compound once this way, so 1, 2, and then each one of those is compound again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 across different sides. That's bipinnately compound, pinnately twice. We also have this one here. This is called heavenly bamboo, very common landscape plant. And here's the petiole. See if we can zoom out more here. I don't know if we can get it zoomed out enough. This leaf is huge. That's good enough. So here's the petiole. And if you notice, branching off once, twice, following the rachis down again and again and again and again. And if we follow one of these, right? So we follow this one here. We can do this one. Following this one leaflet, right? It branches off again and again, again and again and again and again, right? And then if we follow this one again, it branches off another time, and another time, and another time. This one's actually even trying to be 4 times here. So this one is what we call tripinnate. It's pinnate once, so it goes this way, then this one's pinnate, and then this one's pinnate. So it's pinnate in 3 different layers. So we have unipinnate, just a normal pinnately compound, which was the filiary, the rhodium we looked at. Then we had bipinnate, which was the sensitive plant, and tripinnate, which is the heavenly bamboo. Not really a bamboo. We also have tripinnate. So here's a clover. And if you look, what did I say? Tripinnate. Oh, I meant trifoliate, not tripinnate. You can see here, it goes off into 3 separate leaves. Now the thing with leaves like this is it's kind of impossible to tell unless there's some sort of a little rachis structure, which sometimes they do have, if it's pinnate or palmate, because they would look the same in this orientation. So rather than saying pinnately compound or palmately compound, we'll say trifoliate, meaning 3 separate little leaflets. Now what's also cool here, this isn't necessarily to with leaves, but I wanted to show it anyways. See if I can find where they went. Oh, here we go. See, can you zoom in on that there? It's hard to see, but there's little nodules inside of this plant. You can see one here actually better. That little ball there between my fingertips. That's a root nodule. That's because this is a pea plant. It's in the Fabaceae family. And that nodule is going to have bacteria called rhizobium in it that can take nitrogen in the form of N2 and make it usable to the plant by turning it into nitrates, allowing this plant to have better access to nitrogen. Okay, so that's compound versus simple. Now we're going to move on to lobes. So we need pinnately and palmately lobed. So where's my pinnately lobed and palmately lobed plant? Yeah, that's palmately lobed. Okay, so here, I think this plant is called flowering maple. It's not a real maple leaf. I need to try and get it to focus here. And if you notice, the veins all occur, they start from the center point and move out. And it lobes kind of palmately here, like in a palmate-like pattern. You can see that here as well with cheeseweed. There's lobes in the leaf structure. It's not compound because the blade, the lamina material, doesn't extend to the center veins. Just like here, they don't extend to the veins. There's blade tissue throughout, meaning they're single leaves. They're not compound leaves, but they do have lobed patterns. And they tend to lobe in a palmate fashion. So those are palmately lobed leaves. We also have a pinnately lobed leaf. Now, if you look, here's the blade, right? Here's the lamina. And right in here, there's still blade tissue. even though it gets really close to the actual midrib, there's still tissue there. And here again, still tissue, another little leaflet-like structure, still tissue. So this is a single leaf, but it is pinnately lobed. It's almost pinnately compound, but it's not because there's still tissue there. So this is a pinnately lobed leaf. Okay, so now we'll move on to venation. So we'll start off with parallel venation, that bamboo plant. So we're going to zoom in a little bit more on these ones. Maybe I can look back here, try and get that really in focus there. There you go. You can see the veins, and you can kind of see how they all run from the base of the leaf up here to the apex, and they all run together. So they'll start at the base, and they'll culminate in the end of the leaf here, and they all run parallel that whole way. That's a parallel venation pattern. That's characteristic of monocot plants. Monocots have parallel veins. Now, there is some caveat to that, not so much that they're not parallel, but sometimes they can spiral, but they will still be parallel to each other in that spiral. A good diagnostic feature is whether or not they create a network where they crisscross each other. Monocot veins don't create a network. They don't crisscross. They will stay separate and parallel to each other throughout. So parallel venation, like this bamboo plant, is a monocot. Now, here we have a dicot leaf. We know that because it's not parallel veins. You can see the midrib here. See if I can get that better in focus. And you can see little veins moving out to the side here throughout. I'll flip it over, maybe you can see it better. You can see little veins moving out, particularly like a network of veins. That's a pinnately veined leaf, another dicot style venation. Now here's cheeseweed. This one's much more visible. Here you can see the veins start at the middle where the petiole attaches and then branch out radially like that. Just like palmately lobed, the veins here move out palmately. So this is a palmately veined leaf, another dicot vein pattern. Okay, so now we will move to leaf attachments. So, very simple one. Here is the original leaf we talked about. It has a petiole that attaches to the base of the leaf. That's a petiolate leaf. Here I have a plant that characterizes that well. This is like fuzzy petiole philodendron or philodendron scromiferum. Here's the leaf, petiole attaches to the base, and if you notice, it's all hairy. This plant's famous for having a hairy petiole, indicating it's a petiolate leaf. We also have sessile. Where's my sessile leaf at? Here. So here is Indian blanket, I believe, in the genus Gaillardia. And if you notice, can you zoom in on the camera? Here's the stem. And if you notice where the blade is, it basically comes straight up to the stem, right? There might be a small petiole there. So this one verges between very minorly petiolate and sessile. Sessile meaning there is no petiole. The blade attaches directly to the stem. You can kind of think of jade plants, the succulent. That's another one that verges on sessile. Sessile meaning that there is no petiole. They just go straight to the stem. That's a sessile leaf. We also have peltate. So here's a peperomia plant. And you can kind of see it already here. So here's the blade of the leaf. And right there, that little white dot is where the petiole attaches. So try and flip it over without breaking it here. You can see the petiole attachment on the bottom. And notice it's not attached, it doesn't attach at the base or at the apex. It's occurring between the two underneath the bottom side of the leaf. That's a peltate leaf. We also have perfoliate leaf attachments. That is where the stem extends exactly like this one, but it'll move through the leaf as well. So there'll be a stem going all the way through the leaf, straight through the middle, and the leaf just around the stem. That's something like Rurae or Claytonia or a local plant species of ours. Okay, now we also have several other things to talk about here. So here is an olive branch, right? So where'd my scissors go? I'm going to cut it up here so you can see a little better. So I'm just going to cut and isolate one node. And if you notice, I isolated one node. Where am I at? I isolated one node. You can see the axillary buds in the axil of the petiole and the stem there. And notice how there's two leaves coming off opposite sides. That means there's two leaves per node. That's an indicator of opposite leaf arrangements. So the olives have an opposite leaf pattern. We could also have alternate. What do I have for alternate here? No, not that one. Alternate, yeah. So here's a lemon branch. I'm going to do the same thing for it. I'm going to isolate one node. So here's one node of a lemon branch, right? You can see inside of there's a little axillary bud that actually will turn it into a thorn and one leaf. So one leaf per node is an alternating leaf arrangement. They will typically go on opposite sides, so it'll alternate up and down the leaf. You can kind of see that here. This one, and then this one on the other side, and this one, they kind of alternate back and forth. So that's alternating leaf arrangement there. Now, so that's one leaf per node, and the olive was two leaves per node. Now, I'll do the same thing here with this lantana. A lantana, another common horticultural plant. Oh, that one has a bad leaf. Let me see if I can find one that has a good leaf on it. Yeah, here we go. Okay, so I'm going to isolate the node again. Now, if you look here, I isolated one node, and you have one, two, and three leaves, all coming from the same spot. You have axillary buds that are going to turn into flowers here, actually. So 3 or more leaves per node is a whorled arrangement, W-H-O-R-L-E-D. So that means it has a whorled leaf arrangement. So you have alternate, 1 leaf per node, opposite, 2 leaves per node, 3 or more, you have a whorled, like this lantana here. Okay, so now we're going to talk about structures at the base of leaves. So what we call like axil structures. So we're going to start off talking about, this one works out well, axillary buds. So here's that lantana we talked about just now, with an axillary bud at the base, right? You can see in there, very, very good axillary buds. That's the characteristic that defines a leaf. We've been looking at those throughout the video. But they also evolve into other different types. So where's my rose at? You don't see the rose?
Mm-mm. I can grab one of the monsters and this one.
I have one in here. I forgot which super fast. Okay, so here's a cutting that I just got from my rose bush. And I'm going to cut off one node, just like we've been doing. Clear out the space. So here's one node from a rose bush. See if we can get that focused. Now what you should notice right away is that this is a pinnately compound leaf. Stem, axillary bud on the inside there. Petiole, rachis with separate leaf-like structures on the edge, meaning this is a pinnately compound leaf. Now what's interesting is if you look here, you see this like weird widening of the petiole? That's a stipule. Stipules are adaptations to kind of usually protect the growing leaf bud as it's starting to sprout. Roses have this flattened like petiole here. Or stipule, sorry, stipule. I had another stipule here. I think it's this one. So here's cheeseweed again, but here's the whole plant. And if we look, where am I at? Let me cut off some pieces of this. So here's cheeseweed. And if we look here at the base of the leaves, where am I at? You can see that little structure there. That's another stipule-like structure. A little leaf-like structure to protect the growing leaf bud. Okay, so So we have axillary, but we need a sheath. So if we look here, here's that fuzzy petiole philodendron again. You can see the fuzzy petioles there. Now, if I turn it this way, maybe, try to orient it to where you can see it well. Okay, there we go. Here, I'll put my hand behind it. You can see here, this is a growing leaf. You can see this big structure here. That's called a sheath. It wraps around the entire growing leaf to protect it as it gets older. We can see on other monocots, it's very characteristic of that. Here's bamboo, and it actually has an old sheath on it that was used to protect the growing leaf bud there. The old sheath on there. Let's see. No, I can't see on that right now. Okay. Now, there's other plants, particularly in the Polygonaceae family, or the buckwheat family, that have ochrea that I'll put a picture up right now of. I don't have one in my yard, so I couldn't grab one. Now, there's a variety of also leaf modifications. So leaves can be adapted to do a bunch of different things. Yeah, hand me that one. Here is a pitcher plant. You can see here's the leaf, and growing off the edge of it is a pitcher, one that doesn't look very good at the moment. But this is used to trap insects, so they can turn into traps where the insects will fly in, get trapped inside of some watery material in there, and then the plants can get their nutrients from it. So leaves can be used for traps. They can also be used as spines for defensive purposes. So here's a cactus. In the desert where cacti like to grow, it's really, really hot and dry. And so flat blade-like leaf structures would just act to help them desiccate faster. So they will often lose their leaves altogether, but also often evolve them into spines. So it's hard to see here, but the spines you see on the outside of this cactus, those are leaves. So spines that sharp armaments that change from leaves or evolve from leaves are called spines. If we have, do I still have that rose around? Does it have a spine on it? It doesn't. The sharp armaments on roses, though, those are actually prickles because they evolve from the dermis. And on the orange, or the lemon that I had, where's my lemon? Here we go. On the lemon, the thorns actually come from these axillary buds, meaning they come from stem tissue, so they're not leaves. So spines are the only leaf-like sharp armaments. We also have tendrils. So here you can see tendrils. These act to help the tree or to help the plant climb up. So these are really common on grapevines. So they'll climb up and grab onto things and pull the plant up and act for support. So that can come from a leaf-like structure. Succulents. You can see here on this succulent how these leaves are really fleshy. They're used for water storage. So you can also make your leaves really thick, allowing to hold on to more water. Also lowers your surface area to volume ratio, allowing you to prevent desiccation to some degree there. We can also do, some plants also have plantlets, something like mother of thousands. I don't have one at the moment. I only have the offspring of it, so it doesn't show it very well. But they're basically little offspring, and I'll put a picture up, that can drop off the mother plant and grow into new plants. We also have stuff like showy bracts, like on a bougainvillea. If you ever look at a bougainvillea, like in the picture here, they look like they have really bright, colorful flowers, but the flowers are actually relatively inconspicuous, and the bright coloration you see is actually the showy bracts, which are leaves that subtend the flowers. Okay, I think that's enough for the video. I'll go ahead and stop there, but let me know if you have any questions.